Did you feel them? The largest quake of this morning was just downgraded to a magnitude 3.6, recorded shortly after 7 a.m. Residents across San Francisco and beyond reported feeling the tremor, a reminder of the seismic forces quietly at work beneath the city. Over the past 4 days, the Bay Area has experienced an unsettling series of 9 earthquakes, shaking the same ground that once bore the devastation of the catastrophic 1906 San Francisco earthquake. Is this swarm a precursor to another disaster of epic proportions? Could it signal that the infamous San Andreas Fault is stirring once again? Join us as we dive into the latest findings, examine the science behind these quakes, and revisit unsettling parallels to one of history's deadliest earthquakes. A seismic swarm. Near the San Francisco Zoo. In just 4 days, 9 earthquakes have struck near the San Francisco Zoo, with magnitudes ranging from barely noticeable 1.0 to a more perceptible 3.6. This clustering of quakes has drawn attention to the San Andreas Fault, the very system responsible for the devastating 1906 earthquake. The first quake in the swarm hit on January 14, 2025, with a magnitude of 2.4 at a depth of 9.4 kilometers. Over the following hours, 2 more tremors followed, registering at magnitudes of 2.2 and 1.8. The activity persisted, with the largest event, a magnitude 3.6, shaking the region on January 18th, along with smaller quakes like the 1.0 magnitude tremor west of the San Francisco Zoo. These depths suggest the quakes originated within the Earth's brittle crust, where tectonic stress accumulates. Unlike the typical main shock-aftershock sequence, this pattern of seismic activity, known as an earthquake swarm, raises more questions. The science behind the tremors. Earthquake swarms are unusual. Unlike isolated major quakes, swarms involve clusters of similar magnitude tremors in a confined area over a short period. The cause? It varies. One theory points to stress redistribution along the San Andreas Fault. The Pacific Plate and the North American Plate grind against each other at about 5 centimeters per year, generating immense pressure. Small quakes may represent the fault-releasing minor amounts of this stress, but their frequency and proximity suggest dynamic forces may be at play. Another possible explanation is fluid migration within the Earth's crust. Sometimes the movement of water or gas through fractures increases pressure along faults, triggering slips. Though this phenomenon is often linked to volcanic areas, it could also occur in tectonically active zones like San Francisco. There's also the possibility of dynamic triggering when distant seismic events alter stress along faults thousands of miles away. Scientists are investigating whether global seismicity could be influencing this swarm. A dangerous reminder of the 1906 earthquake. The current swarm's location is particularly alarming. The San Andreas Fault's northern segment hasn't seen major activity in decades, but history warns that quiet periods can precede catastrophic events. On April 18, 1906, a magnitude 7.9 earthquake ruptured 296 miles, 477 kilometers, of the fault. The shaking leveled much of San Francisco, igniting fires that burned for days and killing over 3,000 people. The event revolutionized seismic science, leading to the development of the elastic rebound theory, which explains how accumulated crustal strain is suddenly released during an earthquake. The lessons of 1906 remain vital. Areas built on soft, sediment-filled ground experienced amplified shaking, while those on bedrock fared better. This understanding has since shaped seismic safety standards. What comes next? So are these recent tremors merely a harmless release of stress, or a harbinger of the next big one? No one knows for sure. California's tectonic landscape is restless, and predicting a major earthquake remains beyond scientific capability. However, we do know the San Andreas Fault has the potential to unleash a devastating magnitude 7.8 earthquake. For residents of the Bay Area, preparation is key. Reviewing emergency plans, securing homes, and staying informed can make all the difference. In California, the question has never been if the next big earthquake will strike, but when. The San Francisco Bay Area was rattled by a minor earthquake Friday morning that struck just off the coast, followed by at least 2 aftershocks. The 3.6 magnitude quake struck at 7:02 a.m. off the coast of San Francisco, with its epicenter about 5 miles southwest of the Golden Gate Bridge and 2 miles west of the Great Highway, according to data from the U.S. Geological Survey. The preliminary measurement from the USGS was a 3.7 magnitude quake before it was slightly downgraded later Friday morning. The quake had a depth of about 5 miles, the data indicated. Crowdsourced data from the USGS indicated weak or light shaking was felt as far north as Santa Rosa, as far south as Santa Cruz, and as far east as Sacramento. A 2.5 magnitude aftershock struck in the same location at 9:39 a.m., followed by a 3.0 aftershock at 10:48 a.m. There were no immediate reports of any damages or injuries. The San Francisco Zoo was close enough to the earthquake's epicenter that the zoo's X account mentioned that there was no damage from it and remained open to the public. Animal care specialists reported no impact to the health and wellness of our animal residents, and no structural damage was found after thorough assessments of the grounds and exhibits, the Post read, adding a thanks to those who expressed concern on social media. The earthquake struck on the San Andreas Fault, which runs from the Cape Mendocino region north of the Bay Area to Baja California, Mexico. The 6.9 magnitude Loma Prieta earthquake in October 1989 was the most recent major quake associated with the San Andreas Fault, according to the USGS. That earthquake struck in the Santa Cruz Mountains on a fault that formed as a result of a bend in the San Andreas Fault, the USGS said. The 7.9 magnitude San Francisco earthquake in April 1906 was the most recent great earthquake on the San Andreas Fault, with an epicenter now estimated to be offshore about 2 miles west of San Francisco, according to the USGS. At least 6 earthquakes have occurred across various fault systems in the western San Joaquin Valley, ranging from magnitudes 2.8 to 3.0. A magnitude 2.8 earthquake was detected near this region, while smaller tremors were reported south of the U.S.-Mexico border. Further north, significant seismic activity is concentrated near the northern plate boundary, particularly at the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone.
You can go back now.
This region, a known hotspot for tectonic stress, has experienced heightened activity, prompting scientists to monitor developments closely. Recent tremor data from Cascadia reveals a substantial cluster of deep tremors beneath the Oregon region, particularly near Salem and Portland, at depths of 35 to 45 kilometers. Although no immediate earthquake activity has followed these tremors, their presence could signal building stress in the area. Meanwhile, Northern California's Bay Area has recorded smaller earthquakes along the Calaveras Fault, but no significant seismic events have occurred recently. In contrast, the Ridgecrest area in Southern California remains highly active, with numerous smaller earthquakes across various fault systems, reflecting ongoing tectonic volatility. Although no major earthquakes have been reported, the San Andreas Fault system, including the San Jacinto Fault, remains under scrutiny as geologists acknowledge the potential for a significant rupture in the future. At Yellowstone National Park, activity remains quiet. Seismograph data and recent maps show no significant seismic events, and the supervolcano appears calm for now. However, Yellowstone's history of unpredictability demands continuous monitoring. In Texas, minor seismic activity persists in the oil fields, often linked to human activities like hydraulic fracturing. Global seismic activity. Globally, a magnitude 5.0 earthquake struck near New Zealand's North Island, close to the southern end of the Kermadec Trench, within the past hour. Further south, the South Island recorded a magnitude 3.4 event earlier today. Though seismic activity around New Zealand remains moderate, its location along the Pacific Ring of Fire highlights its susceptibility to larger events. The Java Trench near Indonesia has seen significant activity, including a magnitude 4.9 earthquake off Sumatra's coast. This northward migration of earthquakes toward the Andaman Sea suggests stress transfer along the plate boundary, potentially impacting adjacent segments. In Japan, no major seismic events have been reported, though smaller quakes continue in the region. While the Nankai Trough remains quiet, Japan's complex tectonic setting requires constant vigilance. In Alaska, seismic activity has been relatively subdued, with small earthquakes, magnitudes 2 to 4, detected over the past 24 hours. Similarly, Hawaii's Big Island has shown no significant seismic events, though Kilauea volcano continues erupting, with lava fountains visible across the summit crater. The eruption appears stable, though lava flow is gradually declining as the magma reservoir below depletes. Solar activity. The sun is currently exhibiting heightened flare activity, with an estimated 3% chance of an X-class flare and a 70% chance of a solar flare event in the coming days. A newly identified sunspot, 3964, has undergone periods of rapid growth in complexity. While it has produced smaller flares over the past 24 hours, no significant coronal mass ejections, CMEs, have been detected. San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie released a statement Friday morning on the earthquake. "I promise to make the safety of San Franciscans my first priority as mayor, and I am keeping that promise today with this morning's earthquake," Lurie said in the statement. "I ordered city government into action immediately this morning, and our first responders have been out across the city ensuring the safety of our residents. We have also been sharing information and giving people the tools to protect themselves and their families in an event like this. I want to assure everyone in San Francisco we are prepared for these events," the statement continued. "As we monitor the impacts of this morning's event, I am already working with our police department, fire department, and Department of Emergency Management to ensure we are using best practices to keep our city safe in the event of a natural disaster. And as our hearts are with those across the state and the country dealing with natural disasters right now, we will always make sure San Francisco is ready." The earthquake's depth was measured at a little more than 5 miles, the USGS said. Wildfires in California. Fire conditions in Southern California remain active, though progress has been made in containment efforts. The Palisades fire, now 39% contained, has scorched 23,000 acres, while the Eaton fire, which burned 14,000 acres, is nearly extinguished, with 65% containment. Further north, no major wildfires have been reported, though prescribed burns are being managed. In Monterey County, evacuation orders have been lifted following progress in containing the fire at the Vistra power plant. Seismic outlook for Northern California. Recent patterns in Northern California suggest rising tectonic stress. Earthquakes in the Blanco Fracture Zone and Gorda Ridges indicate increased strain along the southern portion of the Cascadia Subduction Zone. These developments warrant close monitoring in the days ahead. Staying vigilant. Amid a restless Earth. As scientists continue to monitor the situation, the recent swarm serves as a stark reminder of the powerful and unpredictable forces beneath our feet. Whether these quakes are a fleeting whisper or a forewarning of something greater remains to be seen.